welcome to Radio Bravery Live. This is my last show in what's left of my old studio. I will be back soon with a new set, new studio, new show. Everything's coming soon. We'll be here Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. YouTube.com/RadioBravery. I'm your host, Justin Belshaw. We've got Short Change Hero bringing us in by The Heavy. This is a very special report today. The truth about the Parkland shooting. We're gonna go over some questions that need answers and some very odd happenings during this shooting in Florida.
I can't see where you coming from, but I know just what you running from. And what matters ain't the rules matters, but the ones you stop you falling from. Don't let it be you feel like you're feeling now. Doing things just to ease your cry. When I love you like the way I love you.
First article I want to cover today on this special report, the truth about the Parkland shooting. Trump visits Florida hospital, sheriff's office after Parkland shooting. This is out of CNN.com. Donald Trump, the President, and First Lady Melania Trump, aiming to honor the victims of Wednesday's school shooting in Parkland, Florida, visited Broward Health North Hospital on Friday. This was about a week ago, I believe. This was February 17th, maybe a little over a week ago. The hospital where many of the victims were treated. After the hospital visit, the Trumps traveled to nearby Broward County Sheriff's Department headquarters and heralded the law enforcement officials who responded to the shooting. He gave them praise for their response, although I do not give the Sheriff's Department praise. There are many unanswered questions. Even the district attorney out of Florida has questions that the Sheriff's Department is unwilling to answer, but we'll get to that shortly. Let's go to this clip from President Trump visiting the hospital there in Parkland, Florida. Pull up this display here so you can see the video.
I want to speak now directly to America's children, especially those who feel lost, alone, confused, or even scared. I want you to know that you are never alone and you never will be. You have people who care about you, who love you, and who will do anything at all to protect you. If you need help, turn to a teacher, a family member, a local police officer, or a faith leader. Answer hate with love, answer cruelty with kindness. We must also work together to create a culture in our country that embraces the dignity of life, that creates deep and meaningful human connections, and that turns classmates and colleagues into friends and neighbors.
So that is a clip of Donald Trump's speech about the Parkland shooting. We've got some more articles to go into here. This one's out of the Tallahassee Democrat. Let's go ahead and take down this display capture. Local law enforcement, no ties between militia and Florida high school shooter. As soon as this shooting went down, there was conspiracy theories running amok about how Nicholas Cruz, the Tallahassee-based, or the shooter in Florida, was connected to a white supremacist group out of Tallahassee. The Leon County law enforcement sources told Tallahassee Democrat that they could not find information linking Cruz to the Republic of Florida militia, as claimed by the group's self-proclaimed leader, Jordan Jared. His comments to the Anti-Defamation League and the Associated Press set off a media firestorm about midday that Cruz was connected to the alt-right white national group, but out of the Tallahassee law enforcement, no ties between this militia and Florida high school shooter. So that has been now debunked, and we will move on from that because it has no basis and no weight and holds no water. We do have this article out of the Miami Herald. Florida school shooting suspect was ex-student who was flagged as a threat. He preened with guns and knives on social media, bragged about shooting rats with his BB gun, and got kicked out of school, in part because he had brought bullets in his backpack, according to one classmate. He was later expelled for still undisclosed disciplinary actions. The portrait of Nicholas Cruz, suspected of the fatally shooting 17 people at the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland and wounding 15 others, his former high school, is a troubled teen with few friends and an obsessive interest in weapons. Administrators considered him enough of a potential threat that one teacher said a warning was emailed last year against allowing him on the campus with a backpack. So he was known to numerous law enforcement agencies. His home was visited 39 times. We'll get to that as well. I just am seeing that the Twitter has now temporarily limited some of my account features because I told Eminem that he was a pathetic loser and no one cares about his opinion. Apparently I violated rules of hateful misconduct on Twitter against Eminem. So that is breaking right now. I am now temporarily suspended on Twitter, so that's pretty funny breaking news right there. So I can't go to my Twitter account, but we do have this one out of CBS Miami, miami.cbslocal.com. A phenomenal man, story of heroism from school coach comes amid nightmare shooting. This is one of the coaches that helped to deter more people from being killed. At least 17 people are dead and 14 injured, many of them treated at Broward Health North in Pompano Beach. Goes on to say, a lot of students and parents are talking about one man, a football coach who, according to CBS 4 News partner with the Miami Herald, was also a security guard at the school. That coach, identified by students and parents as Aaron Feist, may have acted as a human shield to protect some students as Cruz opened fire with an AR-15 rifle. Coach Feist, according to students, jumped in front of the bullets. One of the fathers whose son was in the football team shared the story with other parents. Quote, "The coach was also shot," the father said. "He got shot by jumping on the guy." That's what I heard. On Thursday morning, Broward Sheriff Scott Israel confirmed Feist was killed and described him as a person who was beloved in the school and community. Quote, "I know Aaron personally. I coached with him. My two boys played for him. I don't know when Aaron's funeral is. I don't know how many adults are going to go, but you'll get 2,000 kids there. The kids in this community loved him. They adored him. He was one of the greatest people I knew. He was a phenomenal man," he said. I don't know any of the specifics yet, but I can tell you that when Aaron Feist died, he was killed tragically, inhumanely, and he did it protecting others. You can guarantee that because that's who Aaron Feist was. So that is one small silver lining to this horrible thing, is a hero stepped out of the shadows. And this heroic man, Aaron Feist, definitely saved lives that day. So that is an incredible part of this story. We have this one out of the Washington Examiner, Marco Rubio. "If someone wants to carry out a mass shooting, they will find a way to get a gun and do it." That's a quote from Marco Rubio, senator out of Florida. Spoke pessimistically Thursday about preventing mass shootings like the one that took place in his home state a day before this quote. quote, "I'm trying to be clear and honest here. If someone's decided I'm going to commit this crime, they will find a way to get a gun and do it," Rubio said on the Senate floor in a speech. Quote, "That doesn't mean you shouldn't have a law to make it harder. It just means understand, to be honest, it isn't going to stop this from happening." And that is a very well said point from Marco Rubio. Criminals commit crimes. Criminals will get a gun legally or illegally. And as they've been finding out, Nicholas Cruz did not get all of his guns legally. There's also this article now out of Infowars.com by David Knight. Once again, alleged shooter on meds. Why SSRIs are suicide mass murder pills. Mainstream media will never talk about this aspect of virtually every shooting because Big Pharma is their sponsor. Buried in a local report on the background of the alleged Parkland shooter is a family member saying he was on meds for emotional/mental issues. Liz explains how SSRIs radically altered her daughter and nearly destroyed her life. This is a caller on the David Knight show, Real News with David Knight. A caller, Liz, explains how SSRIs radically altered her daughter and nearly destroyed her life when a colleague gave her the drugs without her knowledge or approval. And another caller, Ann, explains how SSRIs work and how they've been involved in shootings. There are links to 4 different videos here on this article. Let's see. Yeah, this is kind of a long one, but that is on Infowars.com. You can find that article by David Knight. Alleged shooter on meds, why SSRIs are mass suicide murder pills. Then we have this one out of Infowars.com as well. Eyewitness, second shooter reported in Florida massacre. Eyewitnesses says she heard shots fired down the hall while talking to the suspect. Eyewitness Alexa Meadnick, who believes there was a second shooter, said she was walking with accused suspect Nicholas Cruz, who the media previously spelled as Nicholas, after she heard shots being fired, and told Cruz she was glad it wasn't him who was doing the shooting at the school in Florida. Let's go ahead and go to this clip so you can check it out for yourself. This is an eyewitness from the school in Parkland who said that she was walking with the suspect while shots were being fired and there was a second shooter.
Bathroom at the moment, and I came back to my classroom and I knocked on the door and the fire alarm went off, and principal came on the speaker and just said everyone needs to evacuate right now. So that's what we did. As I was going down the stairs, I heard a couple shots fired. Everyone was freaking out, saying that it was a gun. And as we were walking, the whole class together, I actually was speaking to the suspect, Nicholas Cruz. And as I was speaking to him, he seemed very, I don't know what the word I want to say is, but he was trouble in middle school, so I kind of joked to him about it and said, "I'm surprised you weren't the one who did it." And he just gave me a huh. So that's really what happened.
You were walking down the hall, he had already fired at that time?
Yes, sir, with him.
Weren't you scared?
In the moment I wasn't, because there was definitely another shooter involved, but...
Oh, you think he was not the only one?
No, definitely not.
Why do you say that?
Because when shots were fired, I saw him after the fact. So, and the shots were coming from the other part of the building. So there definitely had to be 2 shooters involved, I believe.
That's the first I've heard of that. Did you see any other students who were wounded?
No, sir.
So that is a video interviewing Alexa Meadnick, who was at the high school standing next to the suspect, Nicholas Cruz, joking with him how she thought that it would be him and saying that she definitely believes there was a second shooter. Here is KHOU 11 reporter discussing another student speaking about the suspect. Let's go to this one.
Local police agencies are still at the school right now talking to students and staff hoping to get answers.
Matt Musil is live near the school in Parkland. This is heartbreaking, we know. Matt?
Yes, it is. Len and me, of course, photographer Bob Luna and I were at West Palm Beach covering spring training for the Astros when we got the call to come down here. We've spoken with a number of students, parents, former students. They are all in shock. Let me just tell you this. We just spoke with a former student, Alexa Medic. She actually walked down the hall with the accused shooter, Nicholas Cruz, after she heard shots fired. She said, "Hey, Nicholas," this is what she told me on camera. We will have it for our 10 o'clock show. She said, "Hey, I just heard shots fired. I'm surprised it wasn't you." Just kidding, like that. He had this reaction, "What?" And then they parted ways. She said, "I heard more shots after that." She thinks there was a second shooter. That's the first we've heard of that, but she believes there was actually a second shooter. We'll see if that comes about or not again. Authorities still inside searching. Now, more on Nicholas Cruz. I spoke with a number of students. Like I said, one of those was Adam Habona, a sophomore here at the high school, used to be a neighbor to Nicholas Cruz. Here's part of our conversation.
So everyone started saying it was Nicholas Cruz. I was not surprised. He really wasn't. I'd see him sometimes, and he was never doing, like, one time he stole something out of my neighbor's garage. The other time he was throwing coconuts at the houses. He's just not a good kid.
How do you go back to school now?
I don't know if I can. I really don't. That image is not going to be able to leave my head. It's horrific. It's really horrific. Seeing two children, what, 15 or 16 years old, laying down like that, it's insane. There's no way to describe it.
Adam told me he was on a first floor classroom. A young girl ripped open the door and dove into his classroom. He said, "I saw a bullet hole in her leg. She was bleeding profusely. Someone put a tourniquet on her. He hopes that she's all right." We hope, of course, that she is. Again, a lot of questions about Nicholas Cruz, and what we do know are the students that knew him had a lot of question marks about him. He seemed like a troubled student, and at some point, authorities hopefully will find out exactly the motive behind this horrendous day here in Parkland, Florida.
Matt Musil, it is simply...
Now let's go to this last clip here on the story here on Infowars.com. Video, second shooter reported in Florida massacre. This is another student reporting multiple shooters.
They start shooting up, so they started shooting from the first floor up, because there's only 2 exits in the freshman building, so everybody started running to the other exits, but that's when the other shooter started coming up. So everybody, and then I thank God to this teacher who opened up her door and let all of us in. She got shot in the arm trying to open the door, and then the other teacher, he got shot in the head trying to cut the other students, and it was like an hour, like it felt like years waiting for them. And then after all that, we finally got out, and like they started yelling at us to keep focused and pay attention ahead, the army people, because they didn't want us to see the bodies that they hid in the corners. They were putting mats over them so we wouldn't see them, but there was dust all over the floor from this weird thing they threw in there. They're trying to. So you think there was more than? Do you think there was more than one? There's 3 shootings. Definitely.
How terrifying. Hold on one second, ma'am. How terrifying.
It was pretty damn terrifying because they were putting us through drills, and we all thought this was a drill. We thought this was a drill, but it wasn't. And then we just started hearing the gunshots, and it was really terrifying because my class, the class I ran into, he started shooting through the door, and he came through and he started shooting the cabinets, and that's when he shot the teacher. And then he ran back outside to shoot the other teacher who was closing the other door for the kids, but he didn't get to close the door, and he was just there. And so we were all just sushing each other, like, shut up, just suck it up, and we're crying because we're not trying to get shot, because he was in the hallway yelling, hey, hey, trying to taunt us and get us to say things, trying to get us outside. And that's when some other kid, like, he ran out because he thought it was free, but he got shot, and then we heard the groaning outside, so we couldn't do anything.
Well, so the shooter, tell me, besides, hey, what was he saying?
He wasn't doing anything. He was legit, he just ran up the stairs, started shooting, and you could see a bunch of kids just going down that way, but stopping, but because the other shooter was coming. So everybody was training. Everybody was trampling each other, because they were like, hey, do you hear that loud banging sound? We all thought it was like some kid joking on the stairwell because they're hollow, so you could just hit a stick and it sounds like it. But then we all were like, oh, this is real. So we all just started running. It was really...
Now, one student told me that the shooter was wearing a bulletproof vest and a helmet. Did you see that?
I saw some other kid. The other kid who came into the classroom, he was wearing some type of thing, and like, I don't know, but it was like, I froze at that moment, because you never know, because when the gun is like pointed towards you and everything, you don't know what to do, and you kind of just like pause, and you're just like,
so that is another student claiming that she witnessed a second shooter. She said 3 shooters, actually. So that is very interesting. And we are going to just go over the questions because there are plenty to be asked. Now I'm going to go to this clip from Real News with David Knight as he is talking about teachers' testimony.
Failed to enter the building and engage with the shooter. Let's play that clip here.
Has he provided amazing leadership?
No, of course not. And Governor Scott has called
about
him to resign for a full investigation into the matter. And I firmly believe that needs to be accomplished. Florida Department of Law Enforcement will be investigating him. I know a lot more than you all do now. So all I'm going to say is, yes, I believe there needs to be a full investigation. I don't think some people were honest.
This is the Florida Attorney General.
Investigate this in Florida, and the right thing will be done.
Pam, was there a stand-down order?
Oh, a stand-down order. Well, if I said that, it'd be a conspiracy theory. She can't talk about it.
But
that would explain why the guys didn't go inside.
Let me put it this way. When you have a school full of students and your duty is to protect those students, if I was there and I didn't have a firearm, I would have gone into that scene. That's what you do. That's what the coach did, who is a true hero. Your job is to protect those students.
That's right. So Steve Ducey asked her, was there a stand-down order? You know, if I say something like that, CNN will try to shut our channel down by saying he's promoting conspiracy theories. But of course, they can promote conspiracy theories about the NRA using their youthful idiot, David Hogg, and nobody says anything about it. Nobody gets any strikes. You know, I don't want CNN shut down. I want them out there. I mean, people need to see the games that the Democrats and the deep state are playing, and CNN is out there in the open, putting that stuff out there. No, we don't want them to go away. We want them as part of the debate and the free marketplace of ideas, but they don't want to debate us. They are like the Antifa people, shouting epithets at people. You're a racist, you're a sexist, you're a homophobe, you're a bigot, shut up. I'm not going to talk to you. I'm not going to address your arguments. You're just going to be censored. And that's the way CNN operates as well. It's a big Antifa organization. But she went on to say, why didn't that officer at the school, why didn't he enter? And she says, well, that's what we're hearing, and I can tell you that I believe some folks in that department were not honest with me, and they're not being honest with the government, but she can't talk about any stand-down orders. She'll talk about all that stuff, but not about the stand-down orders. Now, yesterday, I played a clip for you of a teacher who said she looked down the hall and she saw somebody, as she put it, in full body armor, and I think she said a helmet or something, shooting at people. Whether or not she saw that or whether or not she was under stress or whatever, that was her comment. I found it very interesting that MSNBC would not say, oh, wait a minute, tell me more about that. I mean, wouldn't you think that they would say something about that? But they just, oh, tell me about where you were grazed on your arm there. Let's talk about something else. Change the subject right there. Now we got a clip from another teacher there at Parkland, at the Stoneman Douglas High School. And this is what he has to say. I'll play the clip for you, but this is what he has to say. I assumed that it was a code red drill because they told us earlier in the day that they were going to have a code red drill using blanks. Now, what do we know from past experience when the government stages a drill, schedules a drill, at exactly the same time, at exactly the same place, and then a real attack just like the drill happens? What do we know about that? But here's what that teacher has to say.
We start to exit the building. All my kids are in front of me, going down the stairwell. I get to the door at the top of the west stairwell in the 1200 building. We hear gunfire. I assume that it's a code red drill because they told us earlier in the day that we're going to be having a code red drill. I assumed it was blanks. So I grabbed all my kids, started yelling at the kids, get back in rooms, get back into rooms. Try to push as many kids into rooms as I can. By the time I get back to my room's door, there's the shooters already up at the tail end of the hall, at the other end, the east end of the building. Heard 2 shots. I didn't see it, but then those 2 shots would have been my friend Scott Beagle, getting shot and killed while trying to save his kids. And then he looked down the hallway and started shooting. At this point, I'm pretty much in the middle of the hallway. I go for cover because, well, I realize that this time I can't actually get in my room because my keys are in my room. As I'm getting...
So that is a teacher who said that he was told they'd be using blanks and that they would be having a code red drill that day of the shooting. He was told they would be using blanks. So that is very, very interesting as we just continue to ask more questions about the truth about what happened there in Parkland, Florida. Then we have this article from CNN.com. Let me see if I can pull this up. So CNN, this is InfoWars linking to this CNN or MSNBC clip, excuse me. This is another student. Outlawing guns, not the answer. Florida student tells Brian Williams. Banning guns won't prevent future events like Wednesday's school shooting, a Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School student told MSNBC's Brian Williams. Let's go ahead and play this.
He was keeping to himself, laugh at himself.
So what was your reaction when you heard that it was him?
I wasn't surprised, but it was kind of unfortunate to hear.
How, if you were a lawmaker, an adult in a decision-making position, how would you stop, do you think, the kind of thing that happened today? A kid who'd been thrown out comes back with a weapon and takes out whatever grievance he's been walking around with in his head.
Gun-wise, I don't think there's any way to prevent it. You outlaw guns, just creates higher demand for it. I think it has to do with mental health, though. If he's been expelled 3 different times from 3 different schools, I think he should be helped out.
Brandon, I asked your brother this. Have you accounted for everybody?
So that is a student from the Florida high school, Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School, actually saying that, yeah, gun-wise, I don't think there's any way to prevent it. You outlaw guns, it just creates a higher demand for it. That's a smart kid right there. His parents did a good job raising him because he actually thinks critically and historically about situations like that. Then we've got this article here out of the Daily Mail. Always has the most interesting headlines, that's for sure. Florida gunman says demon voices told him how to pull off school shooting, and police reveal they were called out 39 times to his family home before his mother died last year. School gunman Nicholas Cruz, 19, faces 17 counts of premeditated murder. He told authorities that voices in his head told him how to carry out the shooting. According to his legal team, he suffers from autism, depression, and other significant psychological problems. Police were called to his family's home in Parkland, Florida, 39 times since 2010. That's 39 times in 8 years. Calls were for a range of reasons, including mentally ill person, child/elderly abuse, domestic disturbance, and several others. Cruz's adoptive mother died in November from pneumonia, and her husband died years before of a heart attack. Cruz was kicked out of high school last year for allegedly fighting or getting into a fight. And a man also reported Cruz to the FBI last year for writing an online post saying he was going to be a shooter. He called himself School Shooter on his YouTube channel. President Trump said in a tweet Thursday morning that there were signs that the shooter was mentally disturbed. 1,000 people attended an emotional candlelit vigil at the school last night. So this is very interesting, as he told police and his lawyers that he was hearing demon voices that told him how to pull off the school shooting. Very interesting, as we all know about MK Ultra, the CIA mind control program that was supposedly declassified. It was supposedly defunded there in the CIA, but the only part of it was actually defunded was the MK Ultra part, where it had over 50 other counter programs that continued to go on there in the CIA. We know Timothy McVeigh was involved in MK Ultra, as well as numerous other shooters in history. Then we have this last article here out of CBS Minnesota, minnesota.cbslocal.com. Reality check: more Minnesotans own guns. Violent crime remains low. Minnesota set a record last year for the number of gun background checks the FBI conducted in the state. More people are carrying guns than ever before, but crime rate remains relatively low. WCCO's Pat Kessler is looking at the numbers and giving them a reality check. We took a hard look at the numbers and found Minnesota has a high rate of gun ownership and a relatively low rate of violent crime. Minnesota's violent crime rate hit a 50-year low in 2016, according to the FBI, and in 2017, the state set a new record for firearms background checks. The National Instant Crime Background Check System reports it processed nearly 683,544 checks on gun buyers in 2017 alone. That includes 473,975 permits, 94,383 handguns, and 125,516 long guns. Minnesota set another record in 2017 also. The State Department of Public Safety reports that 283,188 Minnesotans now have permits to legally carry firearms in public. In 2017, the state issued 57,651 permits to carry a weapon in public. That's down from a record of 71,156 permits issued in 2016. There's still a lot we don't know about guns in Minnesota. An estimated 36.7% of Minnesotans at least own one firearm. So that is 1/3 of the population in Minnesota owns firearms, and they have an extremely low violent crime rate. So you see a state that arms itself, protects itself, and that is just the historical fact. You can't take away weapons from a criminal and expect them not to break the law to get it. So that is a very interesting report out of CBS Minnesota, and that's going to do it for this special edition of Radio Bravery Live, the truth about the Parkland shooting. So continue to ask questions for yourself. That is the biggest point here in news, in journalism, and in the information war that is going on. This is a news war, and I'm just here to bring you the facts, the questions, and the evidence as it rolls out. So thank you for joining me. Please subscribe today, youtube.com/RadioBravery. I'll be back very soon in a new studio, in a new set, and we will be covering the news as it breaks. Thank you so much. I'm Justin Belshaw.